Thank you books underscore etc. for this opportunity to speak about my book. Let me introduce myself a bit. My name is Adrija Roychowdhury. I am a journalist by profession, and Delhi in Thy Name is my first book. This book's idea was conceived about 3 years back, and we know in the last few years there has been a lot of name changes of places and streets, like Allahabad is now Prayagraj, Gurgaon is now Gurugram, and Aurangzeb Road in Delhi is APJ Abdul Kalam Road, and the examples are numerous. And every time there is a change of name, there is so much of debate and discussion around it, there's so much of whether or not this name is representative of a certain history, of a certain past, or whether the government should be doing this. There's a lot of uproar about this. So I wanted to dig into why is a name so emotionally triggering. What is it that goes behind naming a place or a street? And I chose Delhi for 2 reasons. One, of course, being the fact that, this has been my home for the last decade or so. And secondly, as the capital of India, the street names and place names in Delhi is strongly reflexive of the socio-political mood of the country at a given time, be it when Delhi became the capital of British India or when it became the capital of independent India. So I started looking, I started out with first going into Old Delhi and into the various gullies and kuchas of Old Delhi, and looking at how the names of these places, of these little lanes and by-lanes have shifted over time. We know that places like Parathe Wali Gali and Churi Wala and Matiya Mahal, of course Chandni Chowk, these are places that are, it's known to every Delhi enthusiast and every lover and resident of Delhi. But how, what went behind naming these places, and have the names of these places shifted over centuries? Then I went to Connaught Place, and it was built by the British for its high-end clientele. So I wanted to look at what went behind naming Connaught Place. Why was the Duke of Connaught represented in this particular shopping arcade? And we know that in the post-independence era, so many names of streets that were named after British officials have been changed. So why have we held on to Connaught Place? What does that reflect about the people of Delhi and the way they are connecting with the history of Delhi? I look into Chittaranjan Park, the Bengali neighborhood, and how and why did the Bengalis of this particular neighborhood choose Chittaranjan Das as representative of their neighborhood. I look at Pamposh Enclave, which is a neighborhood with Kashmiri Pandit residents, and Pamposh it means lotus in Kashmiri. Why did this group of residents in Delhi choose Pamposh to represent themselves in this particular neighborhood? What does it tell us about Kashmiri Pandit migration to Delhi? I look into Saket, which is a DDA neighborhood, and Saket, as many would know, is an ancient name of Ayodhya. So what is the connection between Saket with its lovely glamorous malls and huge these wide boulevards? What does it have to do with Ayodhya? And finally, I close the book with a chapter on Shaheen Bagh, which is a very, very popular name right now. Because of the anti-CAA protests, and Shaheen is falcon, and it was a metaphor used quite extensively by the poet Iqbal in his writings. So I have tried to ask this question as to what Shaheen meant to the residents of this neighborhood, or what Iqbal meant to the Muslims of Delhi, and why this particular name was chosen to represent the residents of this area. And this chapter it's very close to my heart actually, because it has some very interesting nuggets of information on the relationship that Muslims had with the capital of India. And through this, through my book, I've tried to ask several questions about the growth of Delhi. And for instance, why is it that we have so many neighborhoods in the city named after freedom fighters? How did the British, for instance, choose whom to commemorate in the streets that they were building? What was the politics behind choosing a particular official when naming its road? What was going on in the minds of the DDA officials while naming the neighborhoods that they drew up in in post-independence Delhi? And what does that tell us about inclusivity as exhibited by the DDA? What do the choice of the names chosen by the migrants tell us about how a set of new people make this grand city their home? And how do they use names to express themselves? Finally, how do minorities use names to express themselves? How do they use names to express themselves culturally, politically? What does it tell us about the relationship of minorities with a city as big and ambitious as Delhi? And this book, I wanted it to talk a little bit about the history of Delhi, but I have also tried to keep it fairly journalistic. I've interviewed as many old-timers and residents and bureaucrats and historians who connect with Delhi in their own specific ways, and because I did not just want to look at the history of names in these places, but I also wanted to look at how do people connect with the names of the neighborhoods in which they are inhabiting. How do they contextualize it with present times? So I hope you enjoy my book. You can find it on Amazon, on Flipkart, and on several bookstores across the country. I hope you will be able to engage with this very interesting topic of names, of street names, and I hope it opens up more conversation on this topic. Thank you.